Are you disappointed now that Fallout Season 2 is over? Did it leave you wanting more? Or are you more disappointed by how it ended? Or are you a jaded loser like me who's never even seen the show? Well, here are 10 things you can watch after Fallout Season 2. It might surprise you to know, but Amazon's Fallout TV show isn't actually the first time that Fallout has been serialized. A short fan film called Fallout Nuka actually released all the way back in 2011, and it was so popular that it spawned an entire miniseries, funded by Kickstarter. Starring Zach Finrock as Twig, an overweight vault dweller who comes from a vault where he was the thinnest resident, Tybee Diskin as Scar, an ex-slave with a bounty on her head, and Aaron Giles as Ben Eldritch, a cynical pre-war ghoul on the cusp of turning feral, and featuring cameos from real Hollywood actors, along with Tim Kaine and Chris Avellone, two of the actual creators of the Fallout franchise. What originally begins as a passion project evolves over the course of 2 seasons into a climactic storyline with actually some pretty damn good acting and set design. Each season spans about an hour, combining to about the runtime of a feature-length film. And seriously, I can't stress how good the show is. There will be times that you forget you're watching a fan film and not an official project. I think that's just about the highest praise that you can give. And I'm not alone. The series went viral, racking up millions of views, and even receiving an official nod from Bethesda and Obsidian. The Nuka weapon, added by New Vegas' Gunrunners DLC, is a direct reference to the series in-game. Unfortunately, copyright issues behind the scenes led to most of the original cast and creators walking out after Season 2. But this series doesn't deserve to be forgotten. As far as I'm concerned, at least, this is the definitive Fallout New Vegas TV show, and it's definitely something that every fan of the franchise should see. Nuka was so popular, in fact, that it actually spawned its own prequel film. Fallout Red Star stars Cameron Diskin as the Ranger, a fan-favorite character from Nuka and this short, gritty prequel covers what he was up to before the events of that series, and how he came to wear the iconic armor. While plans for an entire series starring the Ranger eventually fell through, Red Star still works perfectly as a prequel, and as its own self-contained story. So if you're gonna watch Nuka Red Star serves as the perfect epilogue. Yeah, I said epilogue. Watch this after Nuka as it might contain some character spoilers. Nuka might be the most famous fan project, but it isn't the only one. Fallout Lanius, an independent fan film released in 2013, recounts the origin of the Monster of the East. Featuring the actual voice actor of Lanius from New Vegas, it's short, it's sweet, and it's definitely worth a watch. You might also be interested in some fan animations. Fallout Sunburst is an animated depiction of the Battle of Helios 1, and I've actually used some clips from this in a few of my videos. And in 2024, Zach Finrock, one of the original creators of Nuka kickstarted a new project called Fallout Breaking, a spiritual successor to Nuka and a teaser trailer released last year, so here's hoping this one releases sometime in the near future.
Well, I'd say she certainly had marvelous judgment, Albert, if not particularly good taste.
A Boy and His Dog, released in 1975, did the post-apocalypse before it was cool. This movie, more than anything else, is probably the most direct cinematic inspiration of Fallout as a franchise. But despite appearances, this is no lighthearted buddy comedy. I mean, it's based off of a Harlan Ellison novella, so what can you expect? Set decades after World War IV, Vic and his telepathic dog named Blood travel a desertified wasteland looking for food and sex, avoiding packs of raiders, cannibals, and glowing mutants, before Vic is lured into an eerie underground community of people living as if the war had never happened, with a desperate need for new blood to refresh their gene pool. Sound familiar?
You mean you want me to knock up your broad?
Yeah, not only did this film provide the name for dog meat,
Fine, dog meat.
Tim Kaine has also revealed that its premise directly inspired many of the now iconic elements of the Fallout franchise. It was even referenced in the TV show. So if you can get past the gritty, almost sadistic premise, this is a must-watch for any Fallout fan. And hey, it's free on YouTube, so there's literally nothing stopping you.
More than a motion picture, an adventure you'll never forget.
If you can believe it, this was actually the movie that Fox bet on being a hit over Star Wars of all things. Yeah, really. And the reason why you've probably never heard of it is because it was predictably a box office disaster. Overmanaged by the studio and completely passed over by audiences, Damnation Alley has been almost completely forgotten. The post-apocalypse just wasn't a hit setting in the 70s, and the clunky special effects were, well, let's call them overambitious. But hey, if you're a sucker for forgotten flops like I am, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. If you like Fallout, you might be interested in the cinematic inspiration for one of its most similar franchises. Stalker has often been called Russian Fallout. Well, that comparison isn't the most accurate. Stalker has its own niches and quirks, and I doubt every fan of Fallout would automatically be a Stalker fan if they were introduced to it. I highly recommend at least giving it a chance and seeing if it's for you. That being said, the original film is a lot different than the games based off of it. The premise is generally the same, but you won't find much action here. Stalker is instead a very artistic, reserved, and philosophic movie that definitely won't be to everyone's taste. It's also not in English. Have I mentioned that? That being said, it's also a classic international film, and I'd recommend it for hardcore fans of either franchise. If nothing else, it drives to the core ethos of what makes a post-apocalypse so dangerously compelling, in a way that I don't think any other film on this list quite can.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
If you want to look into the cinematic inspirations of Fallout, there's no better place to look than the movie trilogy that put the post-apocalypse as a genre on the map. The 1979 original might be a little different than what you'd expect, but the grungy aesthetic of Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome are peak post-apocalypse, and this gritty, nihilistic aesthetic was a direct inspiration on Fallout, and, every other post-apocalyptic movie or video game since 1981. It's a shame that we've never seen a dedicated vehicle system in any Fallout game. I mean, vehicle combat isn't exactly core to the essence of Fallout, but you can't help but imagine the possibilities. Hopefully by the time Fallout 5 releases, they'll have figured it out. But let's be honest, any post-apocalyptic vehicle game is just going to come off as a derivative of Mad Max anyway. These days, the Day After is mostly remembered for its iconic nuclear blast scenes. But there's actually a whole movie behind it, and it's pretty good. This TV movie was created with the explicit purpose of warning people of the true cost of a nuclear war, and it does not shy away from the horrifying details. In fact, the end credits ominously warn that the true effect of a nuclear war would likely be much worse than anything that can be shown on screen. But that doesn't mean it's pulling its punches. This is the film that traumatized a generation. It was even so widely viewed that President Ronald Reagan later admitted that it helped change his views on nuclear proliferation, leading to key arms control treaties with the Soviet Union. So if you're tired of the stale, cartoony nuclear blasts of Fallout, The Day After shows that the real thing would be much worse than anything we can possibly imagine. Threads, released just a year later, is basically just the British version of The Day After. But don't discount it. This movie is just as dark, if not darker, given that its events continue years after the war, and show the degeneration of what remains of society into an illiterate, almost medieval culture. Unlike The Day After, Threads is basically unknown in America. Even in Britain, government censorship meant that this TV movie only ever had a limited release. But if you haven't got your fill of hopelessness yet, Threads is also available on YouTube to watch for free, so check it out. The Postman was just another film in Kevin Costner's truly historic series of career-ruining flops throughout the late 90s. But the premise will sound pretty familiar to any Fallout fan. Costner's character impersonates a post-apocalyptic courier and inadvertently inspires the rebirth of the U.S. Postal Service, reconnecting the disparate settlements of the wasteland who unite to overthrow a tyrannical warlord. I won't lie, this one is pretty corny, and if you can't stand Kevin Costner, I don't blame you. But it's worth a watch if you like post-apocalyptic schlock. Also, check out Waterworld. I actually really like that movie. Not much similarity to Fallout here, except it being set in a very different kind of post-apocalypse. But Mad Max on the ocean is a pretty cool concept, and I'm a total sucker for some good old practical effects. Who knows, maybe one day we'll get an ocean-themed Fallout. And in that case, I'd imagine it would look something like this.
I'm on my way to Vegas. It's the land of the free.
Released in 1998, Six String Samurai is a low-budget indie film and cult homage to Hong Kong Kung Fu and doo-wop rock and roll, with a post-apocalyptic flair. Seriously, this movie is a balls-to-the-walls blast from start to finish. Just listen to this. Set decades after a nuclear war, King Elvis, ruler of the state of Las Vegas, the lone paradise in a moribund wasteland, has died, and Vegas needs a new king. The Six-String Samurai, a martial arts master and latter-day Buddy Holly, sets out towards Vegas with an eye to claim the throne. Pursued by Death himself, while a radio DJ blasts tunes from the original soundtrack by the Red Elvises. And all of that doesn't even come close to describing how wild this movie is. Plus, it might be the only movie on this list, besides the fan films of course, that actually references Fallout itself. This one's free on YouTube too, so go and give it a watch. You can thank me later. This one is just about as 2000s as it gets. This short-run TV show may have only aired 2 seasons, but it's since gained cult status. Fan demand forced a second season in 2008, and spawned a series of comics spanning what was originally meant to be seasons 3 and 4. What puts it on this list is its portrayal of the growth of factionalism and conflict in a post-nuclear world. Jericho might be a rural community relatively unaffected by the nuclear blasts, but resource scarcity inevitably leads to war with a neighboring town. And in Season 2, a Cold War between the remnants of the United States government and a splinter faction threatens to turn hot, with communities like Jericho caught in the crossfire. Like almost every other entry on this list, Jericho is an underrated gem, and definitely worth a watch. Continuing our list's trend of box office flops that have since become cult classics, this 2010 Denzel Washington flick is actually pretty damn good in my opinion. Denzel plays a blind man possessed by the mission of protecting the world's only remaining Bible, while an evil warlord, played by a deliciously hammy Gary Oldman, pursues, hell-bent on using the power of the book to restart civilization through authoritarian control of faith. Also starring Mila Kunis and Ray Stevenson, the washed-out wasteland of the Book of Eli is about as far away from the retrofuturism of Fallout that you can get, but it's still one of my favorite post-apocalyptic flicks, and that gives it a place on my list. If you enjoyed the Fallout TV show, you might want to check out what put series leads Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy on the map in the first place. This hit HBO show was based off of Michael Crichton's 1973 classic. Framed around a Wild West theme park that takes realism to the extreme by using humanoid androids to play the part of real cowboys and Indians. The catch? They don't know they're androids. This one might not really have any similarities to Fallout, like, at all, and seasons 2 through 4 bombed so hard that the show ended up being dropped from HBO. Like, you literally can't watch it anymore on streaming. But season 1 is legitimately incredible television, and if you can get a hold of it, I can't recommend it enough. This ongoing Apple Plus TV show, based on a series of novels, hasn't really blown up in terms of popularity, and to be honest, I haven't actually seen it yet myself, but it's been pretty well received. And apparently there's a lot of fan excitement for the upcoming Season 3. It sounds pretty similar to Fallout, though. After a nuclear war, thousands of people live in an underground shelter that extends for hundreds of levels underground. Cut off from contact with the outside world and ignorant of their own history and purpose, people in the silo begin to question their artificial society and if what they've been told about reality on the outside is really the truth. Sounds pretty good to me, at least. I'll have to give it a watch sometime. So there you go. Those are 15 and change things that you can watch after Fallout Season 2. I'm sure there will be at least something on this list that will be of interest to any kind of Fallout fan. But did I leave something out? Leave your own recommendations in the comments, and let me know if you'd like to see more lists like this. It might be up to making a part 2 if enough people are interested. That's going to do it for now, though. I'll leave links to the films on this list that are available to watch for free down in the description, so be sure to check them out. There's literally no reason not to.